and we've done this for real customers, is they have legacy specialty equipment that only runs on certain versions of operating systems with certain patch configurations, period, right? And the truth moves, time evolves, and to your point, honestly, we've seen systems that are Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP. Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
Welcome to the Cyber Sitrep, the situation report.
The situational report.
I got that wrong again. Darn it.
No, it's early. It's late. I don't know what time it is.
Practice, people.
That's right. You'll be noticing that we're wearing different shirts. So yes, we must be recording.
And we're totally out of sync as usual. Right. So you've had a busy week. I've had a busy week. And so Mike, what are we doing here today?
We had a pod that went way long.
Yeah, sorry guys, it was me. I got a little bit too verbose. Virtualization primer, right?
That's right.
And so this is our intro for part 2. We originally recorded it all as one episode and didn't want to put you guys through that, so we're gracefully breaking that into 2.
We're going to give you a break and you get to see it in 2 chunks.
Exactly. So this is the intro. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, we can support unlimited. Well, I say unlimited, but the snapshots, right?
Right.
Snapshots are limited by the amount of storage you have on your device, because some snapshots may be a couple hundred meg, some may be a couple gigs, some may be hundreds of gigs. It just depends on the size of your guest.
So,
right?
like a best practice is
absolutely
keep 5.
Yeah.
Because it's really your last known state.
Right.
So if you have your last 5 last known states, you're pretty good. So you can always go and delete the older ones.
Absolutely. And on that note, Mike, what we do, because we're paranoid, right? Actually, we know they're out to get us, is that when we have what we call a pristine build, and we know that that's where we want it, then we will back it up to different media so that I have it somewhere else in the event that either I run out of snapshot space.
I was going to say, I recall us doing a thing of power of 3 for backups.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And, to your point, having 5 snapshots is reasonable. Having that fail-safe that's floating around somewhere else. And how cool is that? It's on another storage medium, network attached storage, cloud, hard drive, and within a minute or 2, you've got that virtual machine back and operational, and you're back in the game.
Exactly.
With everything that you spent hours configuring, it's all there, ready to go.
Without lifting a finger for reconfig.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it makes us lazy, right? Hence the beefy comment there, right? Okay. Also, the nice thing, you kind of mentioned this before, is that this allows us to rapidly provision a test and dev environment, right? So if we need something on demand of going, oh, hey, I have this requirement I need to get done in 2 days, you can leverage virtualization to get there, right? And the idea we're going to talk about here is once you get this set up, you're going to keep this in the background, right? When you don't need it, you spin it down, but you keep it ready to go. And as soon as you need it on, boom.
That's right.
Power it up, and you're back in the races, right?
You got a full still on your computer, sitting there dormant. So your computer is effectively powered off within your computer, and you can power it on whenever you need.
It's awesome, right?
And with some of the software systems, like we were talking about, the Oracle one, it literally has like power on.
It does.
So you know what you're doing. You're powering it on.
Right. Like case I use is occasionally we teach, like you do, to the community, and we talk about, how to harden specific things within different operating systems. So I'm able to, on my Mac system, spin up a Linux instance, a Windows instance, and I can walk people through right there, real time, of how you would do this, all while having it within its safe little sandbox. And it's a great visual aid, right? It's just amazing. And I'm telling you guys, once you get used to using virtualization, you're never going to go back, and that is okay.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. The last one is, 2 things actually. Talking about the snapshots, right?
Right.
So those are space limited. So if you need a lot of snapshots, have a lot of storage, and you're good to go, right? Now, that being said, you can also have too many snapshots and forget what's what. So that's why I recommend having that pristine image, right? That's your known starting state.
That's right.
And then if you get lost in the sauce, and let's say it's a year from now, and you're like, well, I've got 10 snapshots on here. Which one do I go to? At least you have that one you can go back to and build your way
baseline.
back. Yeah, your baseline, right?
Yep.
And not lose all that work, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and then finally, and this is a pro and a con, right? Is that we can use it to simplify our configuration management and our patching, right? Because if we have a gold pristine image image of a virtual machine, guess
That's
what?
right.
We can clone that guy, right? And so we can say, hey, this is my great build. Now I want to make 10 copies of it and run it. Now, so that's going to be a con we talk about when we talk about license management. But in general, if you're using a free and open source like Ubuntu, any of your non-Red Hat, so like Fedora, Rocky, CentOS, etc., those don't require a license, and you can clone those to your heart's content. And they're all configured just the way you wanted them, right? And then if you need to patch, you can patch that master, re-clone it, and you're good to go.
Yep,
right?
and everybody's the same.
Everybody's happy, right? Okay, so those are not exhaustive, but a lot of the main points, right, are why we need to use virtualization.
When you said pro and con, what's the opposite of pro? Con.
Yeah.
So what's the opposite of progress? Congress.
I didn't say it. He did. He almost got me to say it. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go there. Not gonna play your silly game, sir. Not today. That was awesome. Very good. All right. So challenges. I say challenges instead of cons, right?
Yes.
Same thing. With virtualization, you can very easily get into what we call guest sprawl, where you get so used to using this, you're having fun, that you don't have a lot of discipline in how you've created those guests, and you'll forget what's what, right?
Yep.
You'll have too many, or maybe you'll have 10 of the same thing and you only need one, right? So it's very, and especially today with the ubiquity of resources out there, this could get to be out of hand pretty quick. So, have fun, everybody, have fun, kids, but at the same time, use a little bit of restraint and responsibility and tune that as you need, and keep your footprint down to where it's manageable.
Because again, the guests eat up or use what you have on the host. So if you have guests that are eating things up that you don't need to, why?
Right. Now, the potential flame that we had from earlier, as I said, secure sandbox. And I said that with a straight face, right? Because the holy grail of hackers is finding an exploit that can escape that sandbox, right? Where they can do something against that virtual machine that gives them access to either the host and or the other guest, or worse, other physical hosts in your environment.
Your whole network,
That could be really bad, right?
Yep.
So understand that. But how the challenge of that is it requires diligence, right? Not sibilance, but diligence, right?
That's right.
And that's where we need to keep track. So whatever vendor you're using, make sure that you're keeping up with patches for that, right? Make sure you're doing best practices for configurations on those. It's not hard, people. It just takes a little bit of time.
Think of it as a real machine. You have another machine to take care of.
Don't just forget about it, right?
Exactly.
It's the point. You got to stay on top of it, because there have been breakout attacks for all the platforms out there. Some have been less severe than others. They're not super common, thank God, knock on wood, right? But they are out there. So you need to do your due diligence and make sure you keep up with your infrastructure, right?
Well, some people are running Windows 95 in a virtual.
Absolutely.
Because it's a great tool to practice and hack on, but just know it's weak, right? It's not patched anymore.
And you made one good go back for me. One other huge pro or bonus of using virtualization, and we've done this for real customers, is they have legacy specialty equipment that only runs on certain versions of operating systems with certain patch configurations, period, right? And the truth moves, time evolves, and to your point, honestly, we've seen systems that are Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP, and they have to be that way because the vendor either went out of business or they didn't upgrade their tool and they still needed it to get their mission done. So they've got it in a secure environment in that virtual machine, and they can still talk to that hardware. And I know it blows people's minds, but I'm telling you,
that's a whole other scary Sitrep.
It is, and it's out
stuff
there.
We've seen.
Absolutely. So you've got to count on that, and that's one other huge benefit of virtualization is you can cover all those specialty cases very easily, right? Okay, so going back to challenges, we could have implementation complexity, right, depending on the tool we're using, right? And what are those best practices for those different operating systems, right? Just because it's a virtual machine doesn't mean you don't have to secure or harden it or do anything else.
Again, treat it like it's a real machine.
Exactly. So when you start using those in your environment, you need to keep up with that and learn a little bit more with cybersecurity, right?
Exactly.
So we're not saying it's super easy. The big one is licensing compliance, right? If you have licenses that are, per host, when you get into virtualization, you start to get into a little bit of gray water there, right?
Yeah.
It's and I'm not throwing any names. Microsoft has gotten a lot better about this, but with licensing. But if you've ever gone down the route with Windows virtualization before, you know that when the system is installed, it takes a look to see what processor it has, how much memory, how much storage. And there's this algorithm that Microsoft uses, which good to them. They use to say, hey, this license key is identifying as a 1 terabyte system with 4 processor cores and 8 gig of RAM, but it previously was 4 gig of RAM, and it was 2 cores, and it was 500 gig of storage. So something doesn't add up here. So I'm going to throw a red flag and say, I don't think your license is valid.
Right.
So is it or not? It depends, right? If you bought that license and you used it on a VM, then you're okay to use that. But Microsoft has some very specific language around that, so just look that up. And we're not throwing them under the bus, but that's also at the application level as well. Some of those are bound to those parameters for how the system is configured. That's how they tell who they're on. The MAC address, right, or the network adapters. There's all these mechanisms that are used to verify license.
Right.
That you've paid for it, right?
Exactly.
And you may run a little bit afoul of that in a virtual environment if you're not careful and plan up front.
Microsoft is not open source.
Right, they're not, and we're not beating them up. There's other vendors out there that do the same thing. So just keep that in mind. If you're in that kind of environment, you may have issues with that if you have specialty software, right? And then virtualization, by its nature, it abstracts things, right? So performance monitoring is a little harder. You can't really use your built-in task manager or your top command, right, to get real situational awareness. There's a lot of specialty tools that, depending on the platform you have, are either available or cost a little bit of money for you to be able to get those metrics on your system, right? Okay.
Because again, it's using the host, so
Exactly.
It thinks it's a whole bird. It's its own computer system, but it's not really
exactly.
Using.
So its metrics are skewed badly, right? So you need something that's hypervisor aware, right? Yep. Okay. 3 final things. I know we got to move on to get through this. Architecture does matter. Back in the good old days, we only had x86 and x64, Intel, right? Instruction set, IA. Now we have ARM, right? ARM's all the rage. If you're an Apple user out there, or if you're a Raspberry Pi, any of those, right? You're running ARM. Well, guess what? A lot of the older operating systems out there don't run on ARM. They haven't been compiled to run on ARM. So even though you have a hypervisor,
the operating system you're putting in doesn't know how to use it.
Have the chipset architecture. So if you're running an ARM system, you need to make sure those virtual machines, those guests, are ARM capable, right?
That's right.
Now there has been one exception. I think I'm going to name drop Parallels, right? For Mac, has actually got a beta to be able to run x86, x64 virtual machines, but it's super slow because it's emulated, right? And so it's not really ready for prime time. So once again, architecture matters. Choose smartly. Also, compatibility between your hypervisors. So we're going to mention all these vendors in just a second. Some are cross-compatible, have conversion tools because they're industry standards, to where if you build it on product A and you need to pull it into product B, they have a conversion tool, right? Those are all those things you need to look at for portability. And if you're just doing that one system for now, it won't matter. But think about it when you get to 4, 5, 6, etc. That will start to matter, right? Especially as you grow and you get more money in your budget and you start to go up with the big boys for your tools. That portability really matters, right?
Absolutely.
And then finally, think about it up front. How big do you want your virtual environment to get, right? If you don't have any idea, start small, but scalability matters as well, because not all hypervisors are created equal for scalability. Some are designed more for lower level, some are designed to go from low all the way to high, and some are designed for high and kind of look down on the
don't
the
play
low
well
specs.
with the lower specs.
They don't, right? So once again, if you don't know, just start low, go from there, but start to look at those.
Good slogan. If you don't know, go slow.
Exactly. If you don't know, don't go, right? I think that was the other one. Okay, so now let's talk about really quick common environments for virtualization, and we're going to go from small to large, system level to enterprise, right? What we can use to host virtual environments, right? So we've all done this. Spare systems you got floating around, right? Laptops, desktops, right? Grandma's old laptop.
That's what I use.
It's 10 years old. That's running that Pentium. Guess what? It'll run Linux just great, right? It's awesome. So that's a very low cost, no cost way to get into virtualization. We're going to talk about the vendors and the products in just a second. So this is the physical environment, right? You take a step up and you say, I want to run 10 virtual machines, so I need a little bit bigger, beefier host. So that would be like a dedicated server, right?
Or even a big laptop or a big desktop that
Absolutely.
You had it the old day that you're not using because you moved to your laptops.
Right. That you bought it, it's got 8 gig of RAM, but guess what? The max RAM on it is 64 gig. So you increase that by a factor of 8 and run a lot more virtual machines on there for cost of what, $50, $60, $100, depending on how much your memory costs. Same thing with your hard drive, right? You can get a much faster, larger hard drive that'll be able to run those
some small updates, and you got a mini server right there in your old desktop.
Right. So that's dedicated server. Then you want multiple dedicated servers because you're really getting into this. You've bitten the bug. That's awesome, right? At that point, then we go into what we call a cluster, right?
Yep.
Where all those servers will work together as a virtual team. See what I did there? Pun intended. It's a virtual cluster.
That's right.
Of virtual machines, and that way it looks like one big environment, but it's distributed among multiple dedicated servers.
And not the other kind of cluster we're used to in the military.
Exactly. That's awesome.
For those who know.
And then, of course, the elephant in the room that we haven't mentioned, cloud service providers, right? I mean, you can use them from low to high, but primarily people start to use those at the high level, right? When they need that scale. Now, we're the exception. That I talked about that patch builder we have. A very good friend of ours helped us put that together in Amazon Web Services, and we run it once a month. It's super, super efficient. It costs us less than it would cost to buy a dedicated system by order of magnitude. So it's a no-brainer for us, right?
The cloud is just someone else's computer.
You're
just renting someone else's computer.
And they're all Type 1 hypervisors, just so you know. So, all right. So now let's talk about virtualization vendors. I know, I promise we'll get through this. So at that small level, when we talk about on-premises systems, right, the laptop, the desktop, the dedicated servers, we just mentioned VirtualBox from Oracle. That is a free open source. That is a Type 2 hypervisor, so it's going to run great. But think Type 2, if you're going to get to be larger, bigger environment, you're at some point going to go from Type 2 to Type 1. You're going to have to maintain that performance you're looking for. But to get started, it's great. It's very portable. There's conversion tools to go to VirtualBox. It's been around forever. Great tool. Can't recommend it enough. Now, their main competitor in the space, at least commercially, is VMware, right? So we have Player, Workstation, Fusion, right? At the workstation level, at the PC level, right? And that's a Type 2 hypervisor as well. I had to look this up, Mike. Since they got bought by Broadcom, at that lower level, they've made Player, Workstation, and Fusion free for non-commercial use. That's a big change.
That is a change.
And if you're going to use it for professional, it's still about $120, $130 a year for that license. So that won't break the bank, right? Type 2 as well. Now, if you're on the Mac side of things and you want to run virtualization, Parallels is one of the biggest ones out there. There are other vendors, not besmirching you. It's just I have experience with these. That runs on Mac native on ARM and Intel Silicon, and it is Type 2 hypervisor as well. So it's a great portability. Performance seems to be fairly snappy. Now, if you're on the Linux side of the world, you've got the best of both worlds here, right? So we have two technologies here. The first one is QEMU, which is Quebec Echo Mike uniform.
That's right.
And that is a virtualization.
Welcome to Linux. They give you something you can't say or spell easily.
Acronyms, right?
Yeah.
So it is part of the hypervisor. It's more of the software stack, right?
Right.
The other component of that you need is kernel virtual machine, or KVM. And that is more the hardware emulator, the hardware abstraction part, right? The two of those together, you'll see QEMU/KVM listed, right? QEMU itself is a Type 2 technology, but KVM, and don't beat me up, everybody, this is what the internet says, is that KVM is actually Type 1. And the reason why Red Hat says this is because that KVM is actually kernel extensions. So they run in the kernel, not on top of the kernel, if that makes sense. So because of that, because it is part of the kernel, they consider it to be Type 1. And I have to tell you, my experience, it's been awesome. It's super fast. Haven't had any issues there. Tons of portability between different platforms, very mature, right? There's another one that's out there for the Linux side of the world called Xen, which is XEN. They're still there, they're still mainstream, but I think they're starting to lose a little bit of steam with regards to the KVM, but still a great technology. Citrix, I think, owns Xen now. We'll talk about them in just a second at the cluster level. Okay. So that also we got to leave in Microsoft. They have a product called Hyper-V. It's awesome, right? And it's free, right? It's as long as you have the Windows 10, 11 professional or higher version, or you're running Windows Server. That is an add-in for free that you can run. And once again, that is a Type 1 hypervisor as well, because it all runs in kernel space as opposed to user land. So they consider that to be a Type 1 virtualization platform.
Absolutely.
So at the dedicated server level, we saw the same names. We have KVM. At this point, we also have a new technology for Linux called Proxmox. Right? Excellent.
Again, coming up with terms that
yeah, I know, right?
Where do
Can't
they come
make this
from?
up, right?
Yeah.
It's a Type 1 hypervisor. It is more of a dedicated operating system. So it's not Ubuntu, it's not Red Hat, it's its own distro, and it's actually based, I think, on Ubuntu or Debian underneath, right? And they have a free tier of that, as well as they have a supported tier that you can pay for. Excellent product. Proxmox is designed for dedicated server all the way up to VM cluster and even cloud, right? It's amazing how much that can scale. But because of that, it has a lot of complexity. Now, VMware, not to be left out,
they also have a server model.
One of the biggest ones, it's called ESXi.
Yep.
And they have all these other add-on products on top of that, but the core technology is ESXi or vCenter on top of that. And that is a Type 1 hypervisor as well. They're one of the industry leaders.
You see that a lot in the bigger companies and their clusters.
Exactly. Now, that being said, they used to still have an evaluation version, so there was inexpensive ways to get in there. I don't want to get into the politics right now, but let's just say that the truth has moved on that, so do your own research on that.
That's right.
Broadcom has kind of changed things since they bought VMware, but it's still an excellent platform that's out there. And then also Hyper-V. Hyper-V is still pulling in there. Microsoft, it's one of those that works all the way at the workstation, all the way up to VM cluster and or cloud, right? Which is great. Okay, same thing at the cluster level. The Zen product becomes Zen Server, which is Type 1. Proxmox is still in there. We have a new technology, a new player called OpenStack.
That's right.
Right, which is, once again, a custom Linux distribution on there, but it is a Type 1 hypervisor, and it's designed for VMware cluster or VM cluster into your own private cloud, right? It's amazing, awesome product.
Back to VM?
Back to VMware, ESXi, vCenter, vSphere. You get all the vMost, you got all these V tools that create a full user experience for you on that stack, and they're priced appropriately, right? Hyper-V still there. And then finally at the cloud level, this is where you're bringing in the big guns, right?
Yeah.
And these are they're in alphabetical order because you know me, OCD. We have
CDO.
Akamai Cloud. Yes, exactly. And I didn't get everybody. I've just got the major ones that we're aware of. Akamai Cloud, Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, Microsoft Azure Cloud, and then Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, right?
Yep, those are the biggies.
Those are the big guys, right? And those go anywhere from one system all the way up to a data center's worth of systems, you name it.
If you got the money, they'll provide the data and the servers.
They'll meet you wherever you're at. And there's a lot of consultants out there whose bread and butter is tied to that, and they're worth every penny because it is, once again, at that high level, it'll do anything you want, and the complexity is there to prove it, right? So anyway, Mike, I think to close this up, virtualization, you need to do it. It solves so many problems for you, keeps you safe, allows you to, cost effectively implement things in your environment, no cost, low cost, right? And it makes you smarter.
That's right. And if you just want to practice on things and learn and grow,
smarter thing, right?
Yeah. You don't have to go out and spend the money to build all these systems.
Yeah, so for $0 today, Mike, somebody could go out, download a hypervisor,
get Linux
OS, a free OS, get it installed, and be off to the races. And the nice thing, everybody, is there's tons of tutorials out there. It all walks on that stack, right?
That's right.
Even Proxmox and OpenStack has tons and tons of support out there at that higher level. It's all there, and of course, there's paid support as well. So, anything else, Mike, on virtualization?
No, I think you got it down. We covered all the bases there.
Whew, this was a really long one. Thank you, everybody. But as you can see, I'm passionate about it. I know Mike is, and
I play them all the time.
Well, and it becomes an indispensable tool in your arsenal, right, in your toolkit.
Absolutely.
That you need to deploy. So with that, please comment,
subscribe.
Flames are welcome. I understand I kind of glossed over some things and went really deep into others. That's totally all right. You guys can
And if you want to know more, hit us a comment. We'll tell you more.
And if you want even more, reach out. Because we love it. So thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you soon. Hey, remember to like and follow us here on our podcast and YouTube channel. And we are coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, which is a professional cooperative environment for small businesses here in downtown Colorado Springs. You should check them out.
Come check it out.